Yeah.
Yeah, and then just going off of that and the whole, other individuals not understanding where we're coming from or our standpoint. It's just like I don't know if it's I don't know. I'm probably gonna go off at the tangent here, but that's just what we're experiencing here on our end. We're just noticing a lot more of these misappropriated situations coming up, or at least we're seeing it more, hearing it more, something like that. Yeah, it just keeps coming up. I mean, I know we talked about appropriation already. Um, I think in their second podcast or something like that. But
Mhm.
um,
Yeah, it was
yeah,
like the second. It was like the early podcast,
exactly.
and you can search that on the YouTube.
Yeah. And I mean, we kind of
You
touched
can search
lightly
it.
on it, but there's just so much more to it, and it just I don't think it's gonna go away until it's addressed and yeah, we talk about it more and even let the other side or the other individuals, not Igorot or even Filipino or whatever, just shine some light on the situation, just to let them know, hey, I mean, this is why it bugs us. Like it's
Hmm.
there's a lot more to it, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Um, because well, maybe I can let Edel rant about our situation here right now, but
Oh, go on.
if you want, I don't know. Um,
Well, I think the sentiment is shared where most of our feelings comes to the fact that when we see a lot of these examples of misappropriation and cultural appropriation at that is the fact that it's it's essentially enacting the notion that we don't exist and that we're not here. Like a lot of the examples that we've brought up in the past episodes, and hell, we can bring it up now if anything, but like a lot of the examples that we can call upon are one where one they don't know much about Igorot culture and they don't know about their own culture. Also, the another example would be um, they're very interested in the Igorot culture. However, they haven't come to terms or have not gone into um, actually reaching out to those of Igorot descent and had any sort of dialogue with
Mm.
them
Yeah.
and have just sort of carried on with the iconography of Igorotness and essentially, um,
Mm.
taking it upon themselves to be that, essentially saying that they're Igorot, or like,
Yeah.
because there's one thing about promoting culture, and there's another where it's like essentially, for to me, the best way I could describe it in the most like personal form would be like stealing. Like if someone was to say where my one is, if he was an Igorot, it'd be fine because for one thing, I would know him. He'd be from Bebak. But there are a lot of instances where there's individuals or there's groups where they're wearing garb that's either similar to ours or a mimic of ours, and essentially in the title of their videos saying that it's an Igorot example of what they're wearing, which is completely wrong. And
Mm.
it leaves much to be desired, the actual dialogue of having dialogue. And it like a lot of our frustration is the fact that we're not included in it, and or we're not being consulted about it, which is really interesting to me because we've talked about an example before where there's a specific podcast where I'm sure they're Igorots, and I totally honor their identity. However, like they from a lot of the experiences that most of the people we know, when they approach them, it's not very amicable, and it's sort of like if if we're trying to get to the same goal where it's promoting culture and it's promoting cultural identity, which is ours, which is a personal thing. It's why are we like why aren't we coming to the same table? Why is it you're here and we're there? And the biggest examples that really bother us is the fact that there's a dialogue here about Igorot culture. However, we're not even in the room. And that's like the best way I can try to like express the feeling I have, or the feeling I get that most of my kin have. And it's not being talked about. Like, we try to speak about it on social media, but it's either met with, cynicism, or um, it's either ignored, which is fine. Like, people are entitled to their own opinions. However, if it's something racist or if it's something ignorant, you have to own up to it. You know what I mean? Like here are the facts. Here are
Yeah.
us. We're showing that we exist. We're here,
Yeah,
bros.
and I think to add to that, I mean, people they can also get fixated on just not just the Igorot part, the whole as a whole, but just like one specific part of being Igorot, and then run with that and do the same thing as by ignoring, the discourse with Igorot people, or with people that know the culture. Like it's really interesting. I don't really know why, but I guess it goes. They're trying to hold on to that pan Filipino thing, but it's really weird. I don't know. I find it weird.
Yeah, no, that's a good that's a good thing to bring up, actually, because some of the things I've seen that really bother me is, it not really bother me, but it's kind of interesting to me because they're promoting, like, big example, tattooing, traditional tattooing. They're promoting tattooing, and it's in the sentiment of honoring tradition. Great. Honoring Filipino tradition and pre-colonial culture, Filipino culture. That's great. That's awesome. But they're not including the fact that that tattooing style, that part of Igor culture has been preserved until now. And a lot of the a
By
lot
the
of
Igorots and by
the
the Cordillerans.
by us.
Yes.
And what I'm seeing is that for a
Yeah.
lot of people that are promoting this, that are, sharing the fact that there was this part of Philippine history where it was relatively erased. It was erased,
Right.
but it was still being kept by us, right? And just because, like, my parents don't have tattoos, just because my grandpa doesn't have tattoos, doesn't make them any less Igorot. Because the fact that they were Christian,
Yeah.
their grandparents had tattoos. Guarantee it. Their great grandparents, if not, if anything. But like the fact that there's this whole movement, which is a great movement of promoting the pre-colonial indigenous Philippine history, is great. But it's I find it interesting to me how there's a lack of acknowledgement that a lot of this indigenousness has and is still existent. For the South, it's the Lumads, and in a lot of the a lot of parts in the Philippines, there are indigenous people. And for us, being
Yeah.
that we are Igorots, that's our main thing. That's what we're going to be talking about. Like, we've kept that on, and there's really a lack of acknowledgement about that. And it's crazy how there's a lot of, like, uh
Yeah.
all these videos on TikTok get views about these people, like, oh yeah, Filipino, like, tattoo, oh my god, look at that. But then, like, they're not, like, there's no mention of, like, us. You know what
Not
I mean?
necessarily
Like,
us, but like where
Yeah.
that is from.
The
There's no
myth.
information about the tattoo
right.
itself, at least usually,
Yeah.
and or it's somewhat incorrect or the story's incomplete.
So